Welcome, everyone. Put away your lunches, find your seats because the bell has rung, and that means class is in session and you are about to get schooled. That's right. This is Arcadia Academia. It is I, Kevin, with my co-host, Caro. How we doing?
Hey, Mr. Kevin, Mrs. Caro. We have to be in costume.
I didn't wear a costume.
Oh, okay.
Awkward.
In role playing, whatever.
No, we're not. Whoa, this is going in a weird direction.
Not role playing. Anyway,
let's stay on message here. This is Arcadia Academia, as I said, episode 7, which I'm not going to talk about what the subject is yet, but I will remind you in case you forgot how this works. Much like real school, there are different classes and periods we need to talk about on our main subject. And just to remind you, we go over science, which is the mechanics of the game or series we're talking about, history, which includes the making of said franchise or game, and then lastly, free period, where anything goes. You can shoot spitballs at the substitute teacher. You could do your homework and be prepared for the next day, or, could be a little bit of anything. But as you all know, we put out a poll again this past month and had you all vote between The Sims and Roller Coaster Tycoon, both very uber popular PC franchises mainly, although they've made different installments there. And Caroline, why don't you tell us which one won and a little bit about it?
it was kind of more one-sided this time. It wasn't like neck and neck like Maniac Mansion and Moonwalker like I thought it was going to be. But guys, we're talking about the original The Sims, the OG that was released towards the end of 1999, 2000s era. And The Sims, if you guys don't know, is basically like a life simulation game where you control people. They're called Sims. And they're in a suburban environment, and you can send them to the city and stuff, and you're basically playing God.
That's pretty fair. I mean, that's kind of what it is. I mean, if you don't know what the Sims are, you should. Why are you even listening to this? Because how did you find this if you don't even know that much? But let's move on. So let's jump into first class. Let's talk about the science, the mechanics of the game, how it works, the story, if you can call it that, of The Sims, is as follows. The player controls or influences the Sims in the game. There's not really any way to win this game. It can go on forever and ever and ever. You can. There's no real story. It just boils down to how you play the game and how you decide to manipulate your little avatar's lives, between their jobs and everything else, which we'll get into shortly. But yeah, not really a story here, but it is an endless gameplay mechanic in the loop that we will cover in depth. So, Caro, take it away.
So we're going to basically start talking about the mechanics. In addition to controlling their lives, the creator or the builder, player, whatever you want to call it, can build houses. This is probably one of my favorite modes in the entire series. You can change the terrain on the land, build water into the land and stuff, and they're considered lots of land. But the whole building and stuff is called build mode. That's just the mode that it's called. And the original game, my favorite, I actually listen to this when I'm trying to fall asleep if I'm having a hard time falling asleep. They had 6 lovely piano tracks for build mode. So much to the point that when I would just go into pause mode at all, I would purposely go into build mode first so the music would start. And then once you move over into the other areas, the music continues to play as long as you're paused. But I just wanted the music in the background. That soundtrack ended up being released sometime in the late 2000s. And of course everybody thought it was a hit. I'm sure people ripped it many years before that from the files, but build mode, piano music, super awesome. After you've built your house or built your whatever it is, I would just like have floating houses on second floor sometimes. It was weird. After you build your house, you furnish it, and that's called buy mode, where you put appliances, beds, furniture, pretty much everything you need to have your Sims needs met. And we'll go into the needs in a little bit. And then the third mode, which is called live mode, is basically where time is not standing still for you to put things in and build things up. It's where your Sims are interacting and where they are living their day-to-day lives. They interact with the pieces of furniture that you put in there, so they can go to the bathroom and the toilet. They can take a shower. They can take a bath. They can go in the fridge and make food. So that's what live mode is, where all of the real fun stuff gets to happen. But I think personally, I spent more time in build mode than anything, just because I love it. I love the architecture element of it. But if you're not exactly creative like me, I mean, I am creative. I'm saying if you're not creative like me, you can have pre-built houses and pre-furnished houses that are done by the developers of the game. They just stick them in there and stuff. And I think later on, at least in later Sims expansions and Sims 2 and so forth, they made it where you could download certain packs where you just get a certain house or a mansion set, or you know, just interesting little lots of land that you can pop in your neighborhood and stuff. But those are the 3 modes of the mechanics of the game, supposedly.
Absolutely. So then after you create your house and you furnish that house and you get everything all set up, you then need somebody to live in that house. So where did the Sims come from? There's no, you know, Mario got a message from the princess that she's been kidnapped. There's none of that stuff. It's just you have these people. So aside from the families that are pre-created in them, especially speaking of the Goths, which I think have been in every single iteration of the Sims, if I'm correct.
Except like Bella Goth, the whole mystery behind her. She was in Sims 1 and Sims 2, but then between Sims 2 and 3, she disappeared. And it's kind of just like an ongoing cult thing. It's like, what happened to her? Did she get abducted by an alien? That can happen, by the way, guys. As of Sims 2, that can happen. Yeah, so I think it was Mortimer and Bella were married, and then Cassandra was their daughter. And Cassandra in the later series has grown up and had her own family and stuff. And Mortimer is actually a ghost in spoiler alert, is a ghost in like with a tombstone and everything in like Sims 3 and 4, I think. But Bella's disappeared.
Bella always seemed to be a little flirty with all the neighbors, so I think she probably just ran off with somebody else.
It was like Desperate Housewives kind of Fox, you know,
exactly,
kind of thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that was like the signature created family, pre-created family that they popped in there.
But if you didn't want to play as the Goths, you can create your own Sims. You can change their heads, bodies, obviously, 3 different skin tones, you know, because we're a cultural rainbow here in The Sims. You can do male or female. So yes, you need to assume a gender, at least for now. You could be adult or a child, although being a child is really not any fun if that's your core character in the game. There wasn't much that they could do, so it kind of took away a lot of the fun.
Literally just went to school and you had to, I don't think you had to do homework back then, but they just went to school during the day and at night they came home.
Yep. So it wasn't a lot of fun. They didn't have jobs. They didn't really get skills or anything like that. And then you had 5 personality traits with points that you can add into each one. And if I recall, maybe this just came in later, I don't remember. You could either do it individually and assign it yourself, or you could pick their astrological sign and it pre-populated them, didn't they?
I think astrological sign came in 2. Okay. I think that I just remember the little tally points, and you had up to 10 per, and then you were allotted X amount to like neat to tidy and active to sedentary and stuff like that.
Right. So that makes sense. And then you could name them, obviously. And there were ways of, much like you mentioned downloading extra items stuff, you could actually download created characters as well and add those into the game. So there was a lot of custom made ones we saw later on. Some I remember playing with like Mortal Kombat characters and stuff like that down the line. But needless to say, there was tons and tons of customization added in later versions of The Sims, with all the multi expansion packs that every iteration of the game has seen since, with some repetition now, I think, at this point. Right. But the core thing is The Sims have 6 needs that should be met or kept in the green in order to keep them happy and essentially be winning said game. You have hunger, obviously. They need to be fed. Bladder. They need to go pee and poop. That they do. Although if you pee all the time, your character never needs to poop. So I find that ironic. But anyway, hygiene, they need to stay clean, take showers, take baths, whatever have you. Energy, they obviously need to rest. They can't just run around and play as them infinitely. They do need to sleep, or they will pass out in the yard and then pee themselves and all sorts of other fun stuff, which I think we'll talk about later. Social needs, they need to interact with other Sims, whether it's Sims that live in their home or in the neighborhood. They can go out and visit other people. And then fun. Everybody needs a little bit of fun, so they can do that via the different activities they learn to do, like painting, playing video games, watching or going TV. To parties, TV, sports, like that. All stuff was added, so they got them covered there. And then Sims need careers. You need simoleons, aka the in-game currency, in order to furnish your house with all the cool stuff. Although there are alternative ways, which we'll get to later. And then the most ironic is The Sims, you know, much like life, you have to, well, don't have to, but you can reproduce through the woohoo function. you're wooing each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if that happens, sometimes you get pregnant, sometimes you don't, just like in real life. I guess it's a bit of a gamble there. You weren't always necessarily known that, hey, if you do it, here comes a baby, but it could happen. When the baby's born, baby turns into a child and eventually ages into an adult as you continue to play through the game. Sims can now actually die, obviously, as much like they can grow up through disasters like catching fire or drowning or natural death. The Grim Reaper will come and try and take them at some point and then leave like a tombstone where they died, which is really kind of a pain in the butt if that happens inside the house and doesn't really make any sense. But hey, you know, it is what it is. But basically, the overall premise of The Sims is you are playing God, and you live these characters' lives instead of living your own. You're staring at a screen and just living vicariously through your virtual avatar. It's
the endless loop of God watching us play God, watching us play God, watching us play God type thing. I think there really is in the later games. I think as of Sims 3, you can literally have your Sims play The Sims. It's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Endless loop.
So yeah, that wraps up basically how the game operates, the mechanics of the game. That is The Sims in a nutshell. So let's talk more about the making. How did The Sims come to be? The history of The Sims games overall. And Caro, I will pass the class back over to you for some history.
Yeah, history time. Ready? All right. So this game, if you don't know, was developed by Maxis. Maxis is pretty much just exclusively known for Sims titles and stuff, and published by EA, Electronic Arts. Back in the day, it was known as Electronic Arts. It's the start of its own series known as The Sims, even though there had been previous Sim games such as SimCity, SimTown, SimCopter, you know, stuff like that. But it was all Maxis property, was called Sim XYZ, whatever it was. Will Wright, the creator, had a lot of issues when he was trying to conceptualize the game. He knew that it was something that he wanted to play, and like he wanted to have this life simulation game, but he was struggling with a way that he was supposed to be, you know, developing it and how he was going to pitch it to his fellow colleagues and stuff and get the ball rolling on actually making the game. But after the success of SimCity, he knew that he wanted to do something with architecture. So instead of having the city itself, he wanted to focus on building the actual structures that were in the city. However, this ended up being a suburban thing and less of a city thing at the end. But in order to just, you know, you can't just have an architectural simulator. There needs to be some point in the game. So his original pitch was that the buildings had to be scored, so to speak, with what you were building. So his idea of a scoring system was that the Sims, the people that lived in them, needed to be the people that scored it. So like they interacted with the environment and stuff. And then that unfortunately did not go very well with Maxis. They did not understand it. It wasn't very well conceptualized. And to a point, I agree. While I did enjoy build mode the most, I don't think I would be so keen on just playing architectural simulator. You know, it's not exactly the nicest thing to think about when you want to sit down at a computer. So after they said no to it, he had to develop it with a team with just 4 people because he was so stuck on wanting to build this game. They gave him 4 people that he was like, can I have these people? They're like, sure, fine, whatever. Go ahead and do whatever you want to do. And then maybe if we see what you're trying to talk about, we'll understand it. And then obviously after they've created this game, it ended up being more about the people, the Sims, more than the structures than what he was originally trying to pitch. You do have that architectural thing, and you're furnishing it, but the scoring system with the people kind of went out the window, and really they're the stars of the show now.
Yeah, and it's true. And the scoring really is a reflection of meeting their needs. So you have to have these things in the home in order to have your successful score. And it makes sense, but I can totally get how if he's standing in a conference room trying to pitch this to investors and then they're like, what are you talking about? How are they scoring this building? Like, you know, they probably have the same vision.
One of the needs in the later games, I think it was as of 2, was environment. So the nicer the environment was, if there was trash on the floor, you got a negative effect. If there was like a nice painting or it was done, if your lot was next to a seaside or something, that was a positive effect on the environment.
Yep.
So
broken appliances in your house lower that score, stuff like that.
Right. Yep.
So the original game was released on PC in January 31st, the year 2000. In the US, of course, it started first because of Maxis. Then February 11th, it hit Europe, and then April 2000, it hit Japan. Came to Mac later on, July 2000, then eventually hit PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox in 2003. Like we said, it started in the PC and kind of just grew and blew up from there.
Yeah.
There were 7 expansions for the PC. Adding themed content packs. You had to have the base game, obviously, to get these expansions, much like DLC works nowadays with video games. They were all in CD format. There wasn't digital downloads back in those days, so I think I actually just recently got rid of the disc too. I had all
did
these.
You really? I kept and I liked keeping the CD boxes too. So we had all of the boxes stacked up next to our computer stuff and everything. So
and the first one, they were your traditional CD-ROM case, where it was like a music CD case, and then later on they ended up with these bigger ones.
Right.
But yeah, they're all in CD format. So you had the base game itself. You had Live and Large, which came out August of the same year release. You had House Party, Hot Date, Vacation, Unleashed, Superstar, Making Magic, all that kind of stuff. Like just so many different Sims things just added to it and just continued to build upon that thing, which gave them clearly a steady revenue stream. We saw this game blow up, and then every time an expansion pack came out there, everybody else had to get that expansion pack too. So it was, every time you were coming back and giving them more money for just, they added certain game mechanics. Unleashed gave you pets, and Hot Date allowed you to meet people and gave like clubs and stuff like that, and they gave added functionalities to the game, which was great. But you were shelling out $30-40 for every single one of these expansions.
It was like a $30 expansion for each. So it was birthday present every year. I was like, hey, there's a new expansion. Wait till your birthday. That was the rule.
Yep. And then once they finished it up, then they said, okay, here's all of our expansions. Here comes Sims 2, and you're going to start it all over again. And here comes Sims 3, and they're still doing it today. That's kind of how it is. But yeah, so that's pretty much the history of development. And they're just still printing money out there. This is a big franchise. It's still very relevant in today's society, and gave birth to a whole new generation of PC gamers, and genre, especially
genre too. Yeah, the whole simulation thing blew up after this game came out.
Absolutely. So let's get to the fun stuff. Let's get to the free period.
Free period, which is my personal favorite, because guess what? I do all the cheats that's going to be talked in here. Because I am impatient and I want my money now. So before we talk about the actual cheats, though, fun fact. Will Wright did not actually like the final version of the game. He said that it was not at all what he conceptualized in the beginning. And actually, all of the games, Sims 2, Sims 3, and so on, have been like a growing project getting to what he originally conceptualized. So, I mean, like adding that environment thing in there. Now there's an actual thing where instead of 3 skin tones, you have like a skin tone slider. The face molding and stuff is literally like you've got putty for your face. You can add body type, all sorts of crazy stuff now. It's really blown up. But as I mentioned, that it's up to its 4th now, and they're still working on expansion packs for The Sims 4. I think Sims 4 came out in 2014 or 15 or something.
Yeah, I think 15.
Yeah. And the Sims, they're not exactly human. I mean, they can be. I don't know. They speak a language called Simlish, which is actually based off of real world languages, such as a mix of Ukrainian, French, Latin, Finnish, English, Fijian, Cebuano. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Cebuano and Tagalog.
So yeah, we used to make fun of the Sims talk all the time as we were playing, because I remember when this game came out. Exactly. My wife, we were just dating at the time, and her little sister, we always used to play like the Sims on her PC, and like we'd just be playing and or somebody be playing in the background while somebody else was watching TV, and just like you make the voice that they would do.
Well, sometimes you could pick out like a random English word in the middle of it, so that's what was so funny about it. Yeah. And we would just really put an emphasis on that English word, and
just that one word would stand out, and you're like, it almost seemed like they said it louder. Like, I don't know, it was very weird. Mm-hmm. But The Sims was not originally going to be known as The Sims. It was originally going to be named Dollhouse by Will Wright, which I think, for given reasons, would not appeal to male gamers as a whole. simply based on that name alone. Although I think if you were to poll Sims players, I think the female population probably outnumbers the male population, although I think plenty of guys play
definitely now because of all of the customization for fashion and like creating the makeup and stuff for the I mean, they can do makeup on these things that make them look like actual people and celebrities. But yeah, there's a lot of female Sims players that have websites where you can download all of their creations and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Crazy. So the first ever object implemented into the game was a toilet. Well, because it offered a lot of different interactions to be tested. Obviously you had to have, ways for them to pee, and for a guy and a girl, in case you weren't aware, that works differently.
Yeah.
So there's different functions there. The flush, it breaks. There's all different things that a toilet actually does in that game. So
they will run to the toilet to throw up too, especially with a woman. The first telltale sign that a Sim is pregnant is they run to the bathroom and throw up.
Just like in real life. That's how you know when a woman's pregnant.
Yep.
And the pets introduced in the Sims Unleashed expansion, as I mentioned earlier, all of the pets are actually voiced by humans. So much like the little weird language that are spoken by the Sims are all done by real people. So are the animal noises.
Yeah. I think as of Sims 3 is when they started actually using a blend of human and animal noises, not so that it sounds so realistic that people are just like, oh my god, that's a real dog, but there's a nice blend in there to make it seem like it's still a fake reality type
just
thing.
Like Simslish with hey, it's almost English but not quite. Right. It's the same thing. It's like, this is almost an animal but not quite.
Right. Let's talk cheats. Cheats are my favorite, guys. This is
especially in this game.
Yeah, when I first learned about cheat codes and stuff, it was probably this game. To activate cheat codes in The Sims, this is still true to this day, you press Control-Shift-C on the keyboard. Once you do that, there's a bar that pops up in the top left corner, and you can type whatever you want in there, and hopefully it's a cheat. If it's not a cheat, it'll just go away once you press enter. But these are the cheats, and some of these are still applicable today for The Sims 4. Rosebud gives you 1,000 simoleons. I can't say this one. Clopacious, whatever. Also 1,000 simoleons. I just prefer Rosebud.
Rosebud. Yeah.
Or Motherload gives you 50,000 simoleons. To make it even better, if you add an exclamation mark at the end, it repeats. So if you do Motherload exclamation mark, you get 100K. Adding a semicolon between that allows you to duplicate the cheat over and over again without having to open the box each time. So if you do Motherload exclamation semicolon exclamation semicolon X infinitely, which I would just control paste and just paste it infinitely, millions. I mean, just millions in seconds. That's the way to do it. I'm telling you. Screw having your Sim get a career unless unless now where it's like kind of a thing where they want to have a job. What? They want to have a job in Sims 4. You're set. You're set. Some of the other not as cool ones, Water Tool gives you the ability to put like a natural lake around your pool or around your house. Not a pool. There's a difference between the pools and the lake water and stuff. It's pretty easy to see once you see it in game. Setting the set_hour is setting the time of the day if you want it to be daytime and it's not. Or vice versa. Really, that's just useful if you don't want your Sim to be at work and you just want to play like when they're done with work. You set the hour and you just skip until they're home. Setting the speed, you can change the speed of this game. Normal time, which is about a second, is I don't know, a minute to every second ratio. I think that's about what normal time is. About right. Yeah. And you can change it to, where an hour passes within maybe about 30 seconds. And then the super fast forward. But set_speed allows you to manually change if you want it to be super slow, which is -1,000, goes up to -1,000, or super fast, which is 1,000 plus. I don't recommend you do that because you will skip stuff.
They will just die. You will start.
People will die. People will die. I promise. Interests is if you just type interests in there, the things that you originally created for your Sim, like their personality traits and such, you can just go in there and change it at will anytime. So if you notice your Sim's being a little too messy, you can up the neatness on there And maybe they'll start to clean the house a little bit more by themselves. Grow_grass is actually really neat. And I didn't understand it at first because I didn't have the best computer back then. So I wasn't noticing it. But there is like actually a good range of brown to green in the grass and stuff. And so once I figured that out, I was like, I gotta have the prettiest, greenest lawn here. So that's really, really useful to just automatically set it as green as you want it to be. There are tons more that I'm not going to touch on, but those are some of the ones that I find the most useful. But my personal favorite, aside from the money cheat, is the move_objects space on or space off. That means you can delete any freaking item in this game. I'm talking the mailbox, the trash can, dirty dishes, anything that's just there that would take time for your sim to interact with to like clean up the dirty dishes. Just delete the dirty dishes and you don't even have to worry about it. So I would like actually go to the edges of the sidewalk and the invisible place that just spawns whatever sims that are coming through your neighborhood. I was an introvert. I didn't want anybody coming and bothering me.
So your neighbors?
I deleted the invisible transport spots where they would come in and out.
Oh, yeah.
And after Unleashed came out, pets, like stray pets, would come out and stuff. And I didn't want the pets to leave. You can actually make your pets, you can make strays your pets after like enough interaction in Unleashed. But the problem would be that they would leave. So I just delete it and they wouldn't have anywhere to leave. And that's how they became my pets easier.
That's more.
I know.
Stealing pets.
I gotta just take care of all the kitty cats. That's my job. But yeah, those cheats, me and Sims with the cheats, we go way back.
Yeah, because I mean, let's be honest, the money one, that's the biggest one. We know that. And I mean, the game is fun, but part of the worst thing is like, hey, I want this awesome TV or this awesome computer.
Right.
I got to go to work for like a month in order to buy it. No, forget that. I'm entering this code. I'm getting it now. So yeah.
Part of the reason that I didn't like the Sims on the GameCube and stuff is because they didn't have that cheat. You know, you had to progress through the actual story, and it was very story driven. It wasn't free reign, do what you want. So the PC version was where it's at, still where it's at, in my opinion.
Definitely. There was a spin-off game in the works called Simsville, but Maxis instead decided to continue development on The Sims itself. As we mentioned, Will feels it's even still to this day not a complete product, so they kept releasing expansion packs due to its success that they really weren't anticipating at first. Many of the ideas, though, for Simsville were eventually incorporated into the multiple expansion packs anyway as they continued developing this game. Sims had its own postage stamp, released in France for the La Poste, part of the Heroes of Video Games limited collection they did a few years back. And today, the entire Sim series has sold enough copies to fill an entire country.
That's insane.
Yep. Over 200 million copies sold. Number 8 on the list of the highest selling video game franchises of all time.
Of all time. That's insane. Yeah, and it's only been around not even 20 years yet, guys.
Yeah, right? It's crazy.
It's crazy. But aside from cheats and fun facts, I mean, I could go on and on and on with all the cheat codes, but you guys don't want to hear all of that, especially for a game that's evolved and not all of those are, available anymore, and I seriously doubt if anybody's going to have the chance of playing the original Sims versus all of the customization available to you in Sims 4. I'm pretty sure people are going to pick Sims 4. Yeah. Nostalgia in me wants to have... I still have all of my Sims discs. I'm not going to lie, but I will fire up Sims 4 in a heartbeat.
Yeah, so let's talk about our own impressions of the game, starting with the original. So do you remember when you got it? What was like playing it originally? Any fun stories? Let's hop in the Wayback Machine here and go back almost these 20 years now. It's when we were youngins.
Yeah, well, I was really young. I was 10 years old. I discovered it in middle school at a friend's house, and I was like, what in the world is this? Like, I'd played video games on the computer before, but I was mostly still console gamer. And this is actually one of the games that got me into playing PC games more often. So asked for it for Christmas or my birthday, I don't remember which, and I got the original pack, and then the expansion pack started coming out after that, and I was just kind of hooked. But yeah, aside from that, I don't exactly remember much about it. I just remember the piano music in build mode was definitely my favorite. And like I said, I still listen to that. It's just such a nice, calming set of 6 tracks. I wish there were more. I really wish there were more. The composer that did those tracks was just phenomenal. And I still listen to those when I'm trying to fall asleep sometimes. It just puts me at ease. Like, it just takes me back to a nicer, simpler time when I don't have to worry about that stuff. And I spent hours building these houses on Sims.
It's like the Animal Crossing music. It's just
chill. Really is. Yeah. It's just really relaxing. But yeah, the original game obviously got me started on a lot of simulation games. I think without The Sims, I probably wouldn't have discovered Harvest Moon's, other sort of sim games. You know, I played other Sims like Sim City and Sim Town and stuff like that in elementary school, but this one really just kind of stole all of my life away. I would come home from school and this was all I would do.
Yeah, it's believable. So, I mean, I was obviously older when this came out, so I would have been out of high school at this point, so let alone 10 years old. But I was at a period of my life where, because I started college in 2000, so yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, so I was PC gaming a little bit here with my wife, then girlfriend at the time, and her sister. We would play like the LucasArts games on the PC or the Sierra games, stuff like that. So what I would do is I was working at CVS at the time, and I would pick up like PC Gamer magazine, and it would always come with the demo disc of games you can try. And some of them were actually full version games. So I think Sims came onto my radar from there. I don't think there was a demo, but I remember seeing it in the magazine because I actually wasn't a Sims player. I never really got into Sim City and stuff like that till after this. The only Sim game I really played a lot of prior to was Sim Ant on SNES.
Oh gosh,
so that was like the only one I liked, and that's clearly nothing like this. But I think this is how it came on my radar. And when it came out, I was like, hey, let's buy it, let's see it. And the three of us would play, and we're like, hey, this is really cool. And it just continued to go from there. I mean, Sims 1 we had everything, Sims 2 we had everything. I think Sims 3 we trickled off a little bit because we weren't as PC as much. But then when Sims 4 came out and I got a better computer, that was like the first thing my wife wanted, was like, hey, we're going to get Sims 4, right? I'm like, okay, we're getting Sims 4. And she would actually spend, and her sister the same way, they would spend all their time building the house, decorating the house, furnishing the house, and then they didn't want to play.
That's how I was when I was little.
Yep. It was like setting up a dollhouse, ironically enough, the title was supposed to be Dollhouse. That's what they enjoyed more, was that experience as opposed to playing the game. Me, I would pick like whatever house I could buy, or I'd use the money cheat code and just buy a house that was all set. And then I just upgrade the stuff inside the house.
That's how I am now.
Stuff. Yeah.
That's how I work now. And I like interacting. There's so many more interactions now. Like, I understand back then there was not as much stuff to do between Sims. Like, now you can make out on the couch. How do you want to sit on the couch when you're making out? You know, all this crazy crap. It's a lot more interesting in watching interactions and stuff. And there's more phases of life. Yeah, I mean, like there's young adult, and then there's adult, and then there's elderly, and then there's the really shrinky elderly people.
Shrinky elderly.
You know, they start to physically get kind of hunched over and stuff. So
the phase of the life I'm almost at, so it's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sunk many hours into this, and then it just continued on as the different iterations came out. There was, do you remember? Oh, My Sims was the one I was thinking of. There was the My Sims that came out on consoles afterwards, with it like the big chunky, almost pop vinyl look to it. Yep. I remember even playing that because it was just like, well, this is a Sims game. Let's even play this, and it just it kept going. And like I said, to this day, we're still playing a little bit. I pretty much haven't played Sims 4 that much on PC. I kind of did to see what was there, but for me, like I said, I enjoy more just playing it as opposed to the building aspect, so I haven't spent too much time with it. But I have been since The Sims came out, a player of The Sims all along, and I've loved what it's done, and it's done a lot for the gaming industry as a whole. Like you said, you can't deny its popularity. Its sales records speak for itself. It's it's very much embedded in the history of video games. In my opinion.
Yeah. The only things that I buy now are the original game and then the pets expansion, just because I wish they would just implement pets already as an just intro thing. It comes with the core game, but I understand that it's a cash cow to have a pets expansion. That's how they've always done it. But yeah, I'm still playing it. Every so often I get the itch and I'll turn it on and stuff, and it's a nice time killer. It's just something to relax to for me, really. It's not anything that I get too enveloped in where I'm like making maps and writing down, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Here's the path I'm going to take with the career path and stuff. It's just a nice time killer for me.
Totally. I agree. So I'm with it. I think that pretty much covers everything we need to talk about. So
yeah,
I think it's time to ring that bell and dismiss class. But before we do, we have to talk about next month. And I'm going to change things up a little bit again.
Oh, snap.
So, I surprised you the first time with the whole, hey, we're going to do a vote.
Mm-hmm.
We've done different things. But you know what? I was thinking it's getting to be this episode that we're going to do next will come out in October. October is Halloween. I know you're not a fan of scary games.
Oh man, I knew you were gonna go.
No, so I didn't pick something scary.
Okay.
But I went with something creepy in the vein of Halloween. Now, I'm not going to put it to a vote because these two games I looked at, I want to talk about both of them. And there's not necessarily a ton of history, but one of them especially I want you to play because I don't think you've ever played it, let alone even ever heard of it, possibly.
Okay.
And it kind of jogged my memory when I saw it. I was like, oh my God, I remember this game. I was like, I want to go back and play this again. So the first one, which I'm sure you've probably played, I would imagine, is the SNES classic Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Yes, of course. It's a great game.
Great game. LucasArts. We'll talk about that. So that's going to be number one.
Yes.
Now, number two, which I don't think you've played, and I don't think it was massively popular, but I remembered in the second I saw one screenshot of this game, I'm like, oh my God, I remember this game. The Twisted Tales of Spike McFang.
I've never heard of that game in my life.
Okay. After we're done, I want you to look it up because I just look at some screenshots. I think this is very much a game you will actually enjoy.
Okay.
Like it reminds me, like after looking, I'm like, oh, it's kind of like an older school, like Shantae or something. Like it's in that vein.
Okay.
Like that. So I think you'll do it. So those are the two we're going to talk about next month. Like I said, there won't be a ton of like weird facts about their development, but they're worth checking out. I plan on actually streaming some of these games. I think once I saw it, like, hey, we need to revisit it. So, and I definitely want you to try and get a copy of the Twisted Tales of Spike McFang and actually play that one.
Oh yeah.
Because I think you'll enjoy it. But so that's what we're going to cover next month. No voting for that month. It's up to Caro what she wants to do the following month in November. I'll leave that to her, but I wanted to do something special for Halloween and do something creepy without getting too scary because I know you don't like that. So I'm respecting that.
I just am squeamish. I'm just squeamish. And
I know.
Most everything now that's scary is gory.
Exactly. And honestly, like with horror, I appreciate horror movies. I don't like gory movies. So I'm in the same way you are there. But yeah, these two games I think fit the vibe of Halloween. They're spooky without being actually scary or anything like that. So it's just fun stuff. So before we go, Caro, where can people find you and anything else you're working on?
Oh my gosh, people can find me on, I'm just going to say it all in one go, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. All 5, ready? The Nintendame, all one word. I am a part of the PSVG Make Us Better crew, and I'm on Nintendo Shack every week. I also stream daily, 3:30 to 5:30 on Twitch. Right now, I'm currently going through Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. And yeah, I'm having a ball with the streaming right now, and I'm not going anywhere with the podcast, contrary to what Donnie wants to think. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, right. So if you don't know me, PSVG Kevin on Twitter, I am streaming pretty much on the regular, not necessarily daily in the same hours that Caro does, but I'll do the early mornings and late nights over at twitch.tv/PSVG. I decided I'm not going to try and do my own. I'll just do it under the PSVG banner to make it easier for all y'all to find me. The only time I'll stream on mine is if somebody else is already streaming on the official one. So yeah, check that out there. PSVG.blog for the website of all the things, including the link to our Discord for Make Us Better, where you can come chat with us about whatever you want. If you have any suggestions or feedback for the show, just let us know there. Or maybe even something you want to see us get to eventually. We are open to those ideas.
Yep.
So hit us up, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this lesson, if you will, in The Sims. So thank you for joining us. Tune in next month for Zombie Ate My Neighbors in the Twisted Tales of Spike McFang, everybody. Ooh. You have officially been schooled.